Welcome back, everyone, to another episode here of the Lure Lab, a part of the Serious Angler Network. As always, I am your host, the Captain, Andrew Full, and it's about to be springtime up here in the Northeast. It's springtime pretty much everywhere else. We're at the end of March as we're recording this, and we're talking jerkbait fishing with MPFL Pro today, Jake Maddux, and we're going to get him on here in a second. But the jerkbait we're going to be talking about is the Shimano World Minnow and Diver Jerkbait series, which is a shallow and a diving jerkbait for those that are wondering, and all the little intricacies that go with these baits. I, for one, have not thrown them yet, but I love jerkbait fishing. So, and I know Jake likes this style of jerkbait through Shimano, so I wanted to get him on here to talk about it. We're going to dive into all the little things about this bait and some of his favorite colors to throw it in. So hope those who are tuning in stay tuned and enjoy. So let's get Jake on here. So, hey, Jake, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
Not too much. Things are good. How are things with you?
Good, getting to fish a bunch, and we just wrapped up Red Crest, so sat there in a expo booth all week, and I'm ready to go fishing. So, yeah.
So did Shimano have the booth there as
We didn't
well?
have a booth there. We were just there with Mark's Outdoors up there in
Gotcha.
Birmingham. So we had some killer deals. New GLX came out with Gene Loomis, so did a closeout on all old ones, and we had a really big showing the first day at Red Crest for sure.
Oh,
So
awesome. I saw some pictures of busy, and then I saw some pictures of it not so
yeah,
busy, but
I think they said Mark's was the busiest booth they've ever had in Red Crest history. So it's number one tackle store in the Southeast. It's
it should
really
be busy, right?
Yeah, it should be busy. So we had crazy deals on everything that you can't get right now: drift fries, Sakamata shads, freeloaders, all of that, stuff that people go crazy for. So
Oh, that's good. That's good stuff. I'm jealous. We were supposed to go down to Red Crest, and then unfortunately, I ended up not even going to the classic Bailey's there now.
yeah,
We're recording this, but yeah, it didn't make sense. Flights got really out of hand, and I'm like, I'm not going to pay $1,000 to fly to
yeah,
Tulsa and spend another $1,000 on hotels and
yeah.
etc. So I opted to stay home, which I think was the worst decision because we got pounded with snow
Yeah,
the last few
seriously.
days. So it's been awful. But we've been talking about this since we had you on basically for the Serious Angler Network and
Yeah.
the Flash Boost technology, right? And the Shimano World Minnow and the Diver Jerkbait is something that's really intriguing to me. Every time I pick it up, I'm like, I need to buy this. And then I end up setting it down.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I'm very curious, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers are really curious what makes this jerkbait so special. So let's dive into it, right? Like, why should someone throw the World Minnow series in Diver Jerkbait by Shimano?
The main thing with this jerkbait is our flash boost technology. Here's a brand new one. Just got it out of the box. Let me see if I can get that.
Yep,
You
perfect.
can see that flashing right there. I'm not even moving the bait. Any subtle movements, it has a mirror inside the bait. Any subtle movement, the bait will sit there and just shimmy. So any of your clear water fisheries, any of your places that have blueback herring, sunny conditions, that's where this bait really shines. For those that don't know, I fish MPFL, but my real job is I do product training throughout the entire East Coast for Shimano. I go into tackle stores and take people on the water with the new products. When I first got these baits, I got 5, and they're the only ones in the country. Even the pro staff guys hadn't really got them yet. I think the only one that had them was Bernie Schultz. So I didn't really know if I was allowed to fish with the baits, but we kind of decided, hey, what's the worst that can happen? We took them out here to Lake Lanier. This is before I lived here. First cast ever with a bait, we had 2 4-pounders on each hook, spotted bass. And that kind of showed us the power of a lake that's super pressured. They see a ton of jerk baits. Jerk bait's really not even the main key player late in the summer like that. They kind of got off of that bite, and the World Minnow still produced a lot of really key fish. But that's the main kind of selling point and makes this jerkbait different than anyone else. We also have stuff called Jet Boost, Flash Boost, and Scale Boost. The Scale Boost is just that cool finish that we have. It's hard to see. I don't have the best lighting.
It's kind of mirrored, right?
Yeah, it's like a mirrored kind of foiled almost. Sorry about the noise.
No, it's okay.
Sorry about the dog. But yeah, it's almost like a foiled finish. Foiled finish. So like the herring legs are on here. Dang it.
we're being jeopardized by a dog here at the moment.
Hang on one second. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, no worries. No, so while Jake is taking care of the pup here real fast, the jerkbait looks super interesting, and I should note as well that they do carry them on Omnia. So down below in the description will be a link to both the World Minnow and Diver jerkbait.
Yeah, for sure. And then we have a bunch of different baits and a bunch of different jerk baits. We have the World Minnow, which is the shallower diver, actually has 3 hooks. This one's the World Diver, so it only has 2. They come stock with owner hooks. What I like to do though is I modify it a little bit. These hooks are really good out of the pack, but I really like the Ryugis. I use the Pierces.
Mm.
Most of the time when the water's cold though, I'd go with the Dagger. The one thing I will say with this bait is this bait does not like to be worked very fast. You'll
Nice and
tangle.
slow. So it's better in cold water.
This is a cold water bait for sure. This is more like a rogue. This is what I compare it to. Is almost like a pool bait. I really smashed them in the wintertime when we first got this bait out on the market. But whenever I would speed it up, it was good until it would foul up. And basically it just darts so like sluggish almost that sometimes the line will wrap up on the hook, which is great for cold water fishing, to have a sluggish kind of jerkbait, not something super erratic. But in the summertime, these herring lakes, the herring spawn, you want something to move a little bit quicker. And that's when we have the Inverno. So that's I listened to your last one with the college kids talking about putting the foam on it and everything. That's something a lot of the swim bait guys have been doing for years. And that's really just kind of translated over the jerkbait world. But that's one that got the paint shoot off of it. One of my favorite colors.
What's it? That's the World Minnow?
This is the Inverno. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, this is a brand new one. It's STCAU. So, yeah, it's a really cool one. It's a 99. So this is almost like your junior size jerkbait. Those are the Ryugi daggers on it. I just got the Zappu suspend strips and cut it basically the middle section out, put one on the bill, one on that, and then have that Ryugi, just like every other treble hook brand, has a piece of foam that they keep the hooks in. I put that on the back. So what this does is it allows it to continuously dive while still suspending. So I can get this bait down 25 feet in a brush pile while still suspending, which is really key for Lake Lanier and all these herring lakes.
Now, I'm curious, why do you put the foam strip on the belly of the bait as opposed to the top?
I've just been kind of playing with it. I feel like it sits better. I've been playing with both on different jerkbaits. I will say that. This is just one that I was experimenting with. A lot of guys that qualified for the elites last year, your quote unquote scoper guys, they were using a lot of that the OSP jerkbait, doing this with the bigger one, the 130 size on some of those big fish lakes. But basically you got the braid split rings and everything, and you can really put some just magnum hooks on there and really keep those fish. Traditionally treble hook baits really your landing percentage goes down whenever you have treble hook baits, but having a bait that you control so well on forward facing sonar, there's no other bait you can control like a jerk bait. And having big hooks to kind of winch them in rather than to finesse. Like these are the daggers. These are like more like your mega bass hooks. Like I love the mega bass hooks, stock hooks during the winter time. Don't like them when you're ripping a jerkbait fast. So
right.
That's when I go towards those pierces, that are Ivy pierces versus the daggers. So but a lot of cool colors. This one you can rip a lot faster, and I'm happy to say that we have some stuff coming. That's all I'll say with this Inverno style, a little bit bigger profile, kind of to match more to like Gizzard Shad, more bigger forage. So I'm really excited about that. But I've been really leaning towards that junior size jerkbait a lot recently. So
yeah, and the technology allows you to see the way the fish react to the smaller or bigger ones as well. And I feel like that's the way it goes around the country a lot, is everyone seems to be downsizing. But I do want to take a step back real fast and talk specifically about like the key things of flash boost, jet boost, and even the scale boost. And I think we touched the scale boost a little bit.
Yeah.
But like what why does Shimano use that terminology when like you have other ones with like LBO systems for like I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's similar to a jet boost. So kind of like I guess the only one we have to touch right left is jet boost now I'm thinking about
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah, so Jet Boost basically all it is a spring-loaded system with 5 tungsten weights with a rubber stopper. So
Hmm.
what's really cool about this bait is it actually casts 44% further than traditional jerk baits. I'm not sure how to tell 44%, but I know it casts really, really good. I think it's the best casting jerk bait on the market. And one of the coolest things about this bait is the actual Jet Boost technology. Everyone loves that flash boost, like what we touched on earlier, but that Jet Boost allows you to make the long cast.
And it
But
doesn't helicopter. Does it shoot? Does it
no, it shoots
helicopter
like a
slightly
bullet.
or shoot
It
straight as
shoots
a
like a
dare?
bullet.
Oh,
It
that's
shoots like a
sick.
bullet. That's the one thing with this bait. It's the best casting jerk bait in the market. Like I played around using spinning rods, with the smaller stuff, and you don't really have to with the Jet Boost technology. One of
Oh,
the coolest thing about it too is you hear that knocking noise. You're familiar like a Spro Little John, kind of like that dull knocking noise.
yeah, like the rubber coated tungsten ball noise.
Yeah, so that's what we have, but it's not like a high pitch, like so many guys are using a silent jerk bait now.
Yeah.
This is just a little bit, I love to throw a jerk bait over grass. Same thing with a trap, like go from a rattling trap to a two tap or a one knocker. That's a really just little key modification you can do, and throwing a jerkbait that's a little bit different sound than everybody else really seems to get a lot of bites. Same thing with our Zimverno. It's got that little bit of uh, knocking noise, which is really cool. And one of the coolest, I always kind of keep this one to myself, but you got to really play with this jerkbait. If you have a fish on scope that's following this jerkbait towards the boat and you're running out of room, you kind of have to make the decision: do you reel it in? Do you rip it really fast and try to get him to react? Well, with this jerk bait, you can snap the rod tip up, and because like a mega bass or any other jerk bait, you might have a ball that rolls into a chamber and stays there. This is freely moving the entire time. If you snap the rod tip up, the bait will actually do a 180 and face the fish, just like you do on a big glide bait, which is
Hmm.
a really kind of thing I've been keeping to myself. But you've got to have you got to figure out with the right rod and the right amount of pull you give on the bait, because if not, you're going to tangle your hooks on the bait. But it's kind of like a last ditch effort I use to, if they're
That's
right at the
cool.
boat, get
I
them to
don't
bite.
know if many jerkbaits can do a complete 180 in the water
Yeah,
when you figure it out.
yeah, for
So,
sure. I've got a video on our company Instagram of me jerking it around like some shallow cover and making it do a 180. It's a really cool bait.
oh, that's wild. I that's just impressive. And like if you have a somewhat neutral fish in the wintertime that follows and you get the snap and look back at that fish, he's gonna eat it. At
Yeah,
least
for
I would
sure.
think.
And that flash boost technology, it goes into not just our jerk baits. I mean, we have poppers,
Yeah.
like
I'm
so many
so
times.
intrigued by those poppers. We'll have to talk about those in the future here.
Yeah, like and also like here's a crazy rig from Ryugi, but that's just a sink glide down on a ledge. But you have it in a swim bait as
Yeah.
well, like all types of different stuff. And it's not just jerk baits. We have it in crankbaits too. I will say, like the crankbait fishing on a sunny day, shallower water, when you bang it across the rock and it goes sideways and flashes, yeah, you might get one to react that way, but chances are he's already going to react when it hits a rock.
Right.
But stuff like a jerk bait, a top water, a glide bait, those are all things that flash boost really, really shines in.
Absolutely. So, kind of name off some of your favorite colors that you would throw these two baits in, because it looks like from what the little bit of research I was doing on it, it seems like a lot of the colors are the same across the World Minnow and the World Diver, right? And you
Yeah,
don't get that with a lot of different companies. Some companies will have specific colors for each size.
yeah,
So,
for sure.
what are some of your favorite colors?
Probably overall, I don't have it in a jerk bait, but it's this pink smelt color. That's probably my number one color. I throw this one in kind of some stained water, actually, believe it or not. I remember listening to a video with Aaron Martins years ago, and he said that pink is actually one of the best colors for dirty water fishing.
Hmm.
So I like that pink, or I would say stained, not dirty. Um, the Pro Blue, of course, and then Chartreuse Silver is a really good one too. It's kind of got a chartreuse head with a kind of a
Yeah.
chrome body. Those three I can put those in my boat and kind of fish everywhere. The AU color is just a good standard olive back see-through one. S Jesus, they make some really good colors, and I will say, talking to the lure design guys at Shimano, we have some really cool ones coming. So one
Oh,
of my favorite colors, I kind of let the cat out of the bag, is Pro Green. We got Pro Green coming, Matte Shad coming, bunch of really sick colors.
oh,
So
matte shad too. That'll be interesting with that matte mirrored body, right?
yeah,
That
it'll be a
comes out.
matte mixed with flash boost, which is really cool because I mean, like we have tons of different jerk baits we throw. This is just one I lean towards on sunny days, clear water, and cold water for the world minnow, and warm water for this is more like a slash bait. Fish it really aggressive. You're up north fishing for smallmouth, or down here on Herring Lake, or in the fall for largemouth, just fishing it really quickly. But I'm really excited about the new colors coming for sure.
Love it. So we talked about like the conditions you would throw it in, but where do you target fish throwing a jerk bait? Like any type of conditions, and then from there, what is your setup?
I mean, I'm weird with the jerk bait. I keep it on the deck almost 24/7. I mean, I've caught them. I've caught some big stringers of fish down in Lake Eufaula. I throw it on 25-pound line, thrown it through pads. I throw it on 8-pound line on a spinning rod. I throw it a lot, just different conditions. But my all around jerkbait rod is a 610 medium Shimano X Pride with a 7:2-to-1 gear ratio. It's the HG Aldebaran, and it's just 10 or 12-pound mastiff fluorocarbon. Sometimes, shad spawn, I might bump up the line so it doesn't go as deep. And I'm fishing more around cover. I might put it on 15 or 16-pound. Uh, More shad spawn oriented, not trying to get it very deep. Or here, like at home, a lot of the times these spotted bass love a jerkbait digging in the mud.
Mhm.
That's another big thing is we used to break so many mega bass lips from just trying to dig it into the mud, to a point where we actually would purposely break them, and then Dremel them into where they could throw them really shallow. This one's got a really thicker lip on it, so it deflects a little better. You won't break them nearly as bad. So any of those clay points and stuff. Um, so yeah, it's a really unique bait to fish around cover as well, not just around open water fish. But I love to throw it on live scope. Used to fish brush piles, fish stumps, especially this time of year when fish are staging, getting ready to spawn. Any of those clay long points, it's really good for a jerk bait.
So, what would you say is the max water temp to throw that flash boost technology?
I mean, it down here
You're
the water.
talking cold water, right? So, like,
Throwing this one, yeah. I mean, I would say probably about 65. It's not super cold water, but I think it's more of like a condition they're in more than just a water temperature thing. Because there's times like in the winter where they want a bait ripping pretty
yeah.
fast. But yeah, most of the time I would say 65, 60 and under really. But it really shines in that 55 to 48. Which I mean, I say 48. We don't really get much colder than that. So
You
I
on
don't
what our lake temps are right now?
probably 35, 35.
Yeah, pretty close, like
Yeah.
38 to 42, depending
Yeah,
on what
that's
body of water
freezing.
you're on.
That's freezing. Yeah, the NPFL at Logan Martin, that was the coldest water I've ever seen in Alabama. It was like 38 in the morning, first
Whew.
day. Yeah,
They still
unbelievable.
bit though.
Yeah, I still bit, so worked
That's
out.
good. Heck yeah. So we talked about like kind of the hooking component upgrades you do to the Shimano Jerkbait series. Is there anything else that you really want to touch on with them here, Jake, before I let you go?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much there's a lot you can do with the jerk bait, especially with the forward facing sonar, realizing what the bait actually does. Like we touched on throwing it around cover, especially with the Zinverno. This is a great one for ripping around docks, especially where you get a lot of guys that throw a mag draft this time of year or like a big swim bait around floating docks. You can rip this down the side. It doesn't go very deep. This one's modified to go deeper. But this one out of the pack, this Zinverno is only about a 4 or 5 foot bait. So you can really fish it fast on some bigger line, get those fish to come out underneath floating docks and annihilate that jerk bait. But yeah, pretty simple with the jerk bait fishing. You can get as in depth with it as you want, and or as simple as you want. We make some really good colors. But just pick up that jerk bait anytime you're fishing somewhere that's got clear water with sunny conditions. Those fish really seem to hone in on that flash boost and come from a lot further distances for it. So
Love it. So
yeah,
I guess I have one more question because I didn't cover this with you when we were talking about the difference between like the world minnow and then the diver jerkbait, and then how do you say the other one? Is it Zimverno?
Zinverno. Yep.
Zimverno. Got it.
Yeah.
So like the Zimverno will dive like 4 to 5, but what water column would you fish the standard world minnow in and then the world diver?
Yeah, so the world minnow is gonna be more of a shallow water bait. I would say it's gonna dive about 5 feet, but I can throw it kind of, suspended fish, anything like that, tops of brush piles that top out about 10 feet. I like that bait to kind of stay above them a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I would say 15 and less usually with that jerk bait. And then with the world diver, it's almost endless as far as how deep you can fish with it. Sometimes on these herring lakes, though, they're weird, like fishing brush. Sometimes you almost want a shallower diving jerkbait so they don't get as good of a look at it. So,
Mm,
um,
that's a good tip.
but yeah, so it just kind of depends. But yeah, it's almost like endless. You can modify it and get as deep as you want to. But this one, out of the pack with these owners that are on there, it goes about, I would say, 8 feet. So
Nice.
about on par with everybody else's, maybe slightly deeper. But yeah, you can definitely modify it and get it to play with it. Like I said, someone that's using this jerkbait for the first time, look at what this jerkbait does on live scope compared to I like to just sit there and have every jerkbait I own on the deck and just, cut them off and just see what they do on live scope, see what they do in the water and just kind of see what they do on different water temperatures with different hooks, different. I've been big on the braid split rings for the past couple of years, so been doing that. But yeah, just test them out, see what you like, and make sure that you don't pop it too hard, or else you're going to tangle that world minnow. So it's more of a sluggish, like your pre-spawn stuff coming up when your ice melts. That's one you definitely want to probably
Yeah,
pick up.
it's more instead of a snap, it's more of a
It's
drag.
more like a pull. Like yeah, it's almost like an old Smithwick Rogue. Like I went and got a bunch of Smithwick Rogues before that MPFL at Logan Martin. I don't know why I got them because these do the same thing, and I like having the flash boost and better colors also. So, and it's about the same profile, that bigger kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
this is a bigger jerk bait too. It's definitely bigger profile. I like having the, really good hooks on there and everything. So yeah, that's about it on the world minnows.
I love it. Now, we'll have to get you back on here in the future to talk about all the
Yeah.
flash boost technology. The one that I think we're most intrigued on is that popper. So I
Yeah.
look forward to talking to you about that one here as we get a little bit closer to popper season. So when you know
Yeah,
that
for
bite's
sure.
popping off, shoot me a message and
Yeah,
get you
definitely. I
back
know
on and
it's
share about
a
that.
killer technique for smallmouth up that way. So,
Yeah, we just love topwater fishing. So
yeah, sweet. Sweet.
perfect. Well, Jake, I wish you luck at Hartwell, which is what you have coming up next, I do believe, and
Yeah.
safe travels and go catch them up. And thanks for joining us on the Lure
Yeah.
Lab. And I'm sure
Appreciate it.
you'll be on more episodes here in the future
Yeah.
on the
Thank you for
overall
having me, man.
network. Of course, we'll chat soon, buddy.
Yeah. Appreciate it. See ya.
Have a good night. Yep. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning into this week's episode here on the Lure Lab. We had Jake Maddux on talking about the Shimano World Minnow and Diver Jerkbait and the Zimverno, I believe he said, which is a newer jerkbait that Shimano is coming out with or releasing at the Classic. So you may even know about it by the time you're listening to this episode. But as always, if you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button if you're new here. If you're not new here and you're just tuning in, let us know if you have fished any of the Shimano jerkbaits with Flash Boost. I'm interested maybe to see what your favorite colors are. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave that review before and always leave a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it and stay tuned for next week's episode.